Welcome to another episode of the HealthCast. I'm super excited to have Ryan DeCook on, therapist and writer. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to see you, Phil.
Likewise, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
So the majority of your recent career has been in the mental health sphere, working as a counselor, and specifically some things that I looked up were you specialize in trauma and anxiety,
Yeah,
working with patients to get over that.
yeah, that's right.
Tell us an introduction about your career journey and how you became into the mental health sphere.
Um, Been a bit of a winding journey. So out of college, I had no clue what I wanted to do really,
Yeah.
and ended up going overseas and was in South Africa for a while and working in with like a local nonprofit there. And then I kind of branched off and started my own social entrepreneurship venture where we were giving out small business loans out there. And so love that. It was exciting. And then I decided to like hand that over to a local team and come back to the States and wanted more business experience. So I ended up in the tech world up in Boulder, Colorado,
Yeah.
and was working with a guy who had a lot of experience and was kind of showing me the ropes and how to build a business. And so it was like great learning. I was working a ton and I was still trying to work on the Africa stuff too. So I was
Mhm.
just working like nonstop and I'd use like my PTO to like go over to Africa and I was
Mhm.
just grinding and I eventually hit this wall where I just really burned out
Mhm.
and just hit a pretty dark place and it was hard to get out of bed and coming to work for quite a while and so that started a journey for me of like thinking about what I really was doing and kind of an existential like third of life crisis, I guess. And so I was like, eventually, through getting my own support, I was doing my own therapy, and I had a friend who was a therapist and a clinical social worker. We had a lot of conversations, and it just made me really fascinated with the brain and mental health and
Mhm.
was very helpful. And so I eventually decided to go back to school and become a therapist myself. So it was a huge pivot for me. And I think for like a lot of people in the field, it tends to be born out of our own journey, that we see value in mental health support or we see what it can do and then we're drawn to it that we want to go give that to other people or offer that to other people. So that was my journey and went through school. That's where I met my wife, who's also a therapist. We're in
Mhm.
the grad school program and then worked in a lot of different settings over the years since I've been a therapist, like profit, community mental health, hospitals, private practice for someone else. And then now my wife and I have our own private practice that we've been running for
Nice.
coming up on a few years, which
Yeah.
is really fun and exciting. And then the last few years, I've also been doing more and more writing. I've always loved writing and kind of found that as a tool or a way that I can share mental health education and support more broadly through
Mhm.
writing. And so been focusing a lot on that and writing for some platforms that serve therapists and then getting more and more into writing for other organizations or leaders that want to develop a voice and some authority in the mental health space and want to build
Mhm.
trust with their audience. So that's a lot of what I've been focused on these days is that writing and that clinical writing and sort of trying to bring a clinic like something that's clinically sound, but has a human side of it, which I think can come a lot from my work with clients and understanding their stories and then just even my own story. So I try and like merge those together in my writing so it's not just dry clinical
Yeah.
jargon or something like that.
Has some substance to it. I
Yeah.
really liked one of the things I read about you, or your expertise is the word I was trying to say. Healing from fear, and I that kind of resonated with me. And helping patients healing from fear,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that just struck a chord with me. I thought that just sounds powerful.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Yeah. I'm pretty passionate about that. I mean, fear is such a funny thing because it's hardwired into our brains and our existence. That's how we survive is we have a filter of fear
Sure.
all the time. And so there's a level of fear or anxiety that is very human. And that's part of why I like to work with it. It's very human experience.
Yeah.
There's obviously levels it can go to for people that becomes crippling or becomes detrimental to their life and really holds them back. And that's really where I want to step in as I try and help normalize what's human for people and then also
Yeah.
like the stuff that's controlling their life or really shrinking their life and causing
Yeah.
challenges. That's where I want to try and work with people and help them find some freedom from that.
I love it. I love it. We've talked previously about our own journeys with mental health. And I like to serve as an advocate for my patients in the primary care setting. And
Yeah.
I've had my own journey with mental health.
Yeah.
It's something I feel passionate about.
That's
I
awesome.
feel like, go ahead.
No, I just said that's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like I've said this before in a couple of podcasts with other guests, but I feel like this one of for all the conversations I'm having about concerns in the healthcare industry from various experts and various angles. I feel like we have made headway with mental health, and at least previously for me, I've been in medicine 20 years, and it seemed like it used to be either like contagious or like taboo, or we didn't talk about it, and
Mhm.
now it's gone from the periphery to being central. I like to at least put it on the table, and if I can't offer anything, I'm not a counselor, but if I can't offer anything in the moment, at least provide some direction and maybe some resources to experts who can provide some further help.
It's amazing to have advocates like yourself and your profession and lots of other professions that are aware of it and know what it is and can
Yeah.
speak to that and support people and or point them in the right direction because it's something that I mean at some at different points it affects everyone.
Most definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's central rather than
Yeah.
cardiac health
Yeah.
or, any of your metabolic health, but it's and then it's like this other thing that's like lingering. No, 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 it's right, it's here.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I feel like I heard some common themes with your career journey. One being like, I was going to say, just stepping back, like leadership, serving others. And it seems like whether it was working in Africa with helping businesses there, or whether it's now currently in the mental health arena, perhaps like they say about nurses, a calling to serve others, and then
Mhm.
also leadership in different roles, and
Yeah.
now moving
Yeah.
forward as an entrepreneur. Really,
That's the hope. I appreciate saying that. That's, nice to hear back, reflected back,
sure.
so and I think that was part of my burnout at the tech company, like, the tech company I worked at had a good social mission, but and I could, support people in the company, but I felt like part of my burnout was I was so far removed from who we were actually trying to help with the organization
Sure.
that I realized that was part of my calling. Like you said, I like to directly support and serve people, whether that's through conversation and one-on-one therapy or whether that's through the words I write to people. That's the hope is that it's supportive and it's helpful to people. I find that yeah, other times like that tech company when I'm pursuing stuff that feels just too disconnected from direct service
Mm,
or about me or just what I want, it's that fuel only burns for so long before it runs out, but something about serving other people just seems to like have a sustaining power to it.
yeah, I like that. Sometimes it seems like it's the most important thing. The world seems pretty noisy at times, and if we can just maybe, I think the people I'm interviewing are concerned with impacting those around them and their community, whether
Mhm.
that means on a one-to-one basis or larger community. But I think that's what I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Let's dive into you were working as a counselor, therapist, and then how did you tell me some of the things that or the catalyst for moving towards starting your own business?
With the writing, you mean?
I'm not sure if it was simultaneous or I don't know
Yeah.
if you were a counselor for your on your own and then additionally got into writing. Like,
I can talk yeah, I can talk to both. So, we my wife and I were working for a group practice that someone else owned, and we had thought about and wanted to at some point open our own practice, and we had recently moved and bought a house and, um, we were planning on starting a family and just one day, sort of out of the blue, that business owner came to us and they were kind of having some financial troubles and they were like, we'd have to drop your income pretty much very soon, like by this amount. And it just didn't work for us. And it was pretty unexpected. And we were
mm,
pretty stressed at first, but we kind of navigated and figured it out. And we looking back, we're really thankful. It just felt like one of those moments that accelerated what we wanted to do, that it
yeah,
forced us to figure it out and start our own practice and do our own thing. And we had gotten enough learning through working there that we're like, we think we can do it. And so
yeah,
so that was kind of cool. Stress, one of those stressful, difficult moments of life that actually ends up being a gift and something better than what you thought. So that was cool. And then
it's really cool.
yeah,
Buddhist in
yeah,
hindsight.
totally. Yeah. Yeah. Looking back, we're just definitely thankful that that's what happened. That's how it
I
went
get
down.
that.
But then let's see the writing stuff. So I knew that I've always loved teaching and I've always loved writing. And so I knew I
Mhm.
wanted to do something that was a little bit broader scope and more educational to help. share the mental health educations. I started writing for a practice, I'm sorry, a platform called Simple Practice. They're pretty nationally known for like therapists, mental health therapists, occupational therapists, and people like that. And so
Mhm.
they had an opening for like a clinical writer and sort of an ethics consultant.
Mhm.
So I just kind of put my hat in the ring and shared with them a couple like blog articles I'd done already and they ended up having me come on to do that. And then it just kind of evolved from there to doing more and more articles for them. And then it's kind of expanded to like another therapist platform and just kind of grown from there pretty organically. And
Yeah.
so I ended up just as I was doing that, starting my own LLC that I was like, okay, basically I could have our therapy practice and then I could have everything I'm doing that's writing or training or teaching under the umbrella of this other organization. So that's kind of how we set it up. And so that one was less of a dramatic story than the starting the private
Sure.
practice. Just kind of happened organically and was just kept growing, which is fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. What does that look like? Are you training like, say, grad students, or are you training like new therapists? Like, how does that?
Mostly other therapists is what I've done, and I've done some training with some organizations or other therapist platforms. One of the main probably one of the deepest expertise I have and that I train a lot of therapists in is working with panic attacks and panic disorder. It's something that I got really interested in early in my career and some of my graduate training. Had the opportunity to run some groups and just learn a lot about panic. And so since the very early stages of my career, I've just been able to learn and work a lot with that and just really enjoy it because it's something that panic attacks can be just so disruptive for people's lives and just feel
Mhm.
so intense for them and such a big deal. And yet there's a lot that's known about them and there's some really good methods and resources and ways that you can support and treat it. So
Mhm.
anytime I get a chance to teach other people about it, especially teaching like other therapists how to work with it,
Mhm.
that's been the nature of my training. I definitely would be open to expanding that and doing more training with like people directly who are experiencing the panic attacks themselves.
Like clients or patients,
Yeah.
clients.
Yeah, I'm doing that a little more broadly. I just kind of haven't really gotten into that so far. But
Yeah. So is that a third business? Like, are you hire do people hire you to for this training, or?
yeah, yeah, it's not a third business. Like I said, I kind of just put I kind of consider it education, right? Like an education business. And so
Yeah.
all my writing or training
Got it.
or consulting stuff, anything like that is under this other business. So I basically have two businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Hustling, Dad.
Trying.
How have things been going for your business since launching, and you and your wife as counselors and with your writing and education? How have things been as a business? How have things been going?
We've loved it. I mean, obviously, as you know, like small business or running your own business has its ups and downs and twists and turns. And but as a whole, we look at back on it, we've loved it, and we talk about it all the time that it would feel really hard to go back and work for someone else at this point, just because we just had a baby this last year, and loved the flexibility to be able to spend a ton of time with her and invest and move our schedules around how we want and
Mm.
still do the work we love to support other people. And it's been good. We've gotten to work with lots of amazing, resilient different clients. We're licensed in California and Colorado.
Mhm.
And so we work with clients from both places and that's been great. And then the writing business has been awesome to add in. I think like, the reality is that some days if you're just doing individual therapy sessions all day every day,
Mhm.
that can be a lot for a therapist. And so for me, I like having something where I can use a different part of my brain and do something that's a little bit more creative and do something that's, I guess, a little less intense and
Mhm.
kind of get that variety. So that's been really cool too. And just love the clients that I've gotten to work with and stuff that I've gotten to write about so far.
Great. One of the things that I try to touch upon in this podcast is technology. Where does technology? That's kind of a broad term, but like, how does technology fit into your work? Whether it's patient care, or
Yeah,
I think we're starting to see conversations or news headlines regarding AI and mental health.
sure.
Can you touch upon that?
Yeah. So, I mean, tech has been how we built our private practice. So because when we relocated to Colorado or back, I'm from Colorado, but we moved from California and we still had clients there. Obviously, we needed a telehealth component. And so we ended up building pretty much everything we do on telehealth and a couple platforms that support that. One platform that specifically helps credential therapists with insurance companies. So it helps us to be in network with the different companies. And that's a huge help because that can be such a
Yeah.
grueling, time consuming process.
Insurance part. Yeah.
The insurance,
Well,
yeah, so they do a pretty good job of like smoothing that out and making that pretty
great.
simple for us, which is really helpful. That's been one of the most helpful tech pieces we've had. And then, just using the telehealth, the secure messaging, the video calls, that's been useful. One thing a lot of these organizations have been coming out with is like AI clinical note
Yeah.
takers.
I have something similar in the hospital setting.
And for us, working with insurance, there's a very specific things that insurance companies want in a note. So if we get audited, they want to see certain things are in the note and this is medically necessary. We know why we're paying for this, and here's
Yeah.
their symptoms, here's blah 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 blah. So those notes have to be really good. We've found was so far checking out some of the note takers, they can sort of be all over the place that like say some things that sound pretty good, but they don't always capture what like an insurance company wants. And so for us, we found it actually takes more time to like go in and view a note and edit it versus like one of the platforms we use, it just has a button you can click that says upload your last note. So
Yeah.
you take the general template of your last note and then just go through and change the stuff that was unique for that session. So for us, we just trust that more than AI at this point, just because of the editorial work. I think
Yeah.
that's some of the drawback with AI is there's just still a lot of oversight and editorial work that's needed because it's very smart and can be very good at times with stuff, but it can be off base or just not what you need sometimes. And sometimes that can really slow you down instead of speed you.
Yeah. I completely understand it for administrative tasks. Are we starting to see AI involved in the therapy process, or our client, maybe not yours, but our clients speaking with an AI agent for as opposed to a counselor? Are we seeing that in the mental health world?
It's showing up a lot more. There's even been some research. I think it was a Harvard review said that like therapy type of conversations is one of the, if not the biggest use of AI. And then my wife and I hear our clients talking about that more of just conversations they're having with AI and things like that. And so it's definitely becoming more widespread, and my wife and I even use it sometimes if we wanna bounce around something that's on our mind or we're kinda pressing. It's nice to have someone who's like, well, something that's always listening and kinda reflecting back and helping you sort through some stuff that's going on. But I think that, there's obviously nuances to it. I think there's some situations and contexts where it can be really helpful for that, and situations where it's really not recommended. It can be a little bit dangerous as stuff gets more severe with mental health,
Yeah.
and more specialized for what's needed.
Hmm.
So, I think we are seeing more and more of that, and I think it's supporting a lot of people, and I think we're seeing some drawbacks or some disappointments with it. So it'll be interesting to see, like, it's something my wife and I have talked about if, it makes sense even for our practice where, um, you offer our sessions, but then there's some sort of tool or like chatbot that could be used in between. The challenge is just that I think the liability piece that there's no AI mental health chatbot out there that is really fully tested or proved to be safe.
Mhm.
It should be to where like as a therapist, I'd be willing to like put my license on the line and recommend it for
Mm.
someone.
Sure.
Because a lot of what those chatbots are doing, what I'm seeing now is like they are marketing themselves as though they are therapy. And even one side I saw they're marketing like we do OCD therapy, bipolar therapy. And those are pretty big claims. And as you sign up and you get in, the first thing that pops up is the terms and conditions that says this is not medical treatment. This is not psychotherapy. This should not be a replacement for psychotherapy. So
Mhm.
they're legal and they're marketing completely. they're just not really vetted. Like they're supporting people, and I do think there probably are some good conversations that are helping some people, but they're just not going through the full process. Because my understanding is like a full process for something like that should be a FDA approved medical device that takes years to test and vet. And when it's a VC funded, Silicon Valley funded tech product, that they're not interested in taking 7 years to test something. So that's some of the challenges with it that I'm seeing, and some of the potential with it.
Yeah. Any insight, we kinda touched upon it already, but any insight into the future of healthcare, say beyond technology, and also, do we have a this might be a whole 'nother podcast. Do we have a mental health epidemic in terms of depression, anxiety? I mean, I hear that we have, a loneliness problem is what I'm seeing headlines on, despite, how as connected as we are to social media. What are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to the loneliness piece you said, and that what was it? The Surgeon General, I think, came out and said that that's one of the biggest
Yeah.
epidemics the country's facing, and I think there's definitely some research and truth behind what he's saying to that. And honestly, what some of the research we're seeing with AI and young people is that the further they get drawn into AI or those type of conversations or those sort of digital relationships, the more it decreases human connection and human relationships, which is another, again, maybe there's some helpfulness to what they're talking about with AI, but also some of that loneliness or that lack of human connection. So I think there's definitely that piece. I think there's definitely a lot of people struggling with mental health. Depression, anxiety are
Yeah.
really
If
what
I had to shape my question, I guess I mean, I understand that I could get my head around it if these are long-term human issues that maybe most of us go through and navigate either individually or with the support of someone else. Are some of the concerns you deal with becoming more prevalent? Maybe that's what I was trying to say.
I don't know if I could say, like I guess since I've started in the field, I haven't seen like drastic shifts of data of like, prevalence of anxiety and depression.
That's what
And I've used a lot more anecdotal of like the clients I see and who I work with. I don't necessarily see like a huge spike. Obviously, the pandemic and what was going on with that, I think increased intensity levels or brought on some of those symptoms for
sure.
people
Yeah.
or understandably. But I think that's probably gone back down to more what it was before. The other interesting piece with that question, I think, is like, even people will talk about like neurodiversity or depression or different things that they're like, the rates of diagnosis are increasing. It's like, well, also in previous generations, people just didn't know as much about it or didn't talk about it or didn't assess
Okay.
for it. And so is it really that much more prevalent, or is it just now that we're aware of it and we're assessing for it and we're diagnosing and we're treating it where
Yeah.
where we weren't? So it's kind of a tricky
That's fair. Yeah.
question to answer.
Shifting it back to you, where do you hope to be? How's the future look moving ahead? And where would you like to be in the next 12 to 18 months with your business?
Well, I think what we're looking at, I think like any business, some of the things you're thinking about is risk. You think about that different times and how you can be sort of as diversified as possible with clients and who's paying you and who's referring clients to you. And so I think that's definitely a focus for us, especially on the referral side, is how do we diversify who we have relationships with and who trusts us to send us clients. That's a big piece. And then, like I mentioned, I think for me, there's been more of a interest in sort of reducing the therapy a little bit for me and continue to increase the writing, continuing to kind of push on like business development and sales around the writing side and just seeing who like, who else needs that type of support or that type of writing for them. So that's a big push. And I think part of it is my wife and I both would love to like travel or explore or have our kids kind of see different places. And we'd love to kind of be some different places at different times. And so we've thought about how do we build our business so that it's kind of can be packed up in a suitcase and go anywhere, anytime, sort of. And that's something that we've been looking at too, and just how we do that the best way possible.
That's exciting. We've had similar conversations in my home, and that's
Yeah, yeah, it's fun to think about and kind of dream about, but definitely takes some I think some hard work to structure stuff and get it there.
Yeah. There's a lot, yeah, a lot of pieces to figure out. Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for spending some time with us. And thank you for the work that you do. I think it's super important and for making a difference in your patients' lives. So
Yeah.
thank you again.
And you too, man. Thanks for the work you do in these conversations.
Absolutely. Where can I feel like most of your work with writing might be in the business arena, but if someone wanted to learn more about your writing or even the care that you provide, where could they go to?
Yeah. So the writing side, I have a website that's just rdecook.com, just my first initial last name.com. And then the therapy side, I'm on a couple like therapist directories. So either ALMA, ALMA, or Psychology Today, either of those platforms for therapists. I have profiles on there that kind of talk about the clinical work that I do.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of the HealthCast. Stay tuned for more.